Anjala Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Jena Tasmaya Shri Gurube Namaha Gurave Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tarabhaktaya Namo Namaha Yam Prabhajantamana Petyam Apeti Krityam Dvaipayano Viraha Katara Ajuhava Putreti Tammayatayo Taravo Benedustam Sarvabhutam Hridimana Tasmi Bhaktya Vihina Aparara Lakshay Shiptascha Karmadi Tarangamadye Kripa Maitvam Sharanam Prapana Vinde Namaste Charana Ravindam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Garadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. I'm first of all offering millions and millions of Dandavat Pranams unto the lotus feet of my most beloved Gurudev Nitya Lila Pravishta on Asto Tarazara Shishimad Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. And the same again, millions and millions of times, unto the lotus feet of our most beloved Nitya Lila Pravishta on Asto Tarazara Shishimad Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, and all the Vaishnava and Vaishnavi devotees of the Lord, my Dandavat Pranams, and all Rupanuga Guru Vargya. I'm offering my prostrated obeisances to all of them. Jai, Hare Krishna. So continuing with our Jaiva Dharma, and we'll again come to the Falshruti with renewed enthusiasm, knowing that every time we read it, it'll reveal something that we perhaps haven't considered previously. So we're on the first? Second. Jade Dvaita Jnana Hoya Chitta Upadaya Krishna Bhakti Chiradina Upaya Upaya. Such knowledge, which is solely related to the duality of this dull material world, is fit to be rejected, whereas transcendental knowledge of the divine duality within the spiritual world should be accepted forever within one's heart, both as the upaya, means of attainment, and the upaye, the goal worthy of attainment. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur is, as I've said before, as if he's repeating himself again and again. All of these verses, so many are pointing to the distinction between spiritual objects and topics and matter, between matter and spirit, constantly, again and again and again and again. This is the lesson that we have to learn. Just like in the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, it's describing all the way through there, Dehino Shminyata Dehi, etc. So many verses saying we are not this material body. We are the spirit, soul. But still, our dull brains don't want to accept it because we become attached to this material body. We like our material bodies, and we like all the attachments that my material body has acquired in this life. I love my family, I love my bank balance, I love my house, I love my children, I love so many things I'm so attached to. I'm not ready for spiritual life, but you are spirit soul. And at the time of death, the spirit soul will leave that body. And where will all those attachments be? Where will that body be? It won't be, it'll just go to dust. In the 12th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, there's a whole list in the first two chapters, Bhumi Gita, and many, maybe 100 kings are mentioned. A king is a great influential personality, but after so many thousands of years, they're just a little bit of ink on a page. All of their kingdom, all of their greatness, all of their wealth, everything is just gone to nothing. So even in a king's domain, they have to leave. Everyone has to leave. When will we awaken to this simple truth that this material existence is temporary? All the time we're hearing different people die, different wars are going on, so much tragedies apparently going on in the world. But we don't think any of this is going to happen to us. We think we're impervious to it. But when you start to realize, yes, I will die, then that will increase the enthusiasm for our practice to do something really, we can say almost soulful, something really deep to change the way we move in this life, to closer connect with our understanding of our eternal relationship with Krishna. But this all takes time. It takes time to seep through the various barricades we've put in our mind not to think about these things. It's not a comfortable truth to appreciate, because we have to address our impermanent condition. But it's so necessary at some point. And this becomes inspired the more we hear about the spiritual realm, because it's not the negative aspect that will actually produce the result. It's our spiritual astonishment and affection for topics of Radha and Krishna in Vrindavan, principally, and topics of Mahaprabhu. When these really become ignited, then gradually, very quickly, all these other temporary dharmas will dissolve by themselves. But Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying it again and again and again and again, because he knows we don't believe it. We believe it, but we can't act on it. But if we want to act on it, we simply have to pray to act on it. If we make our prayer focused for this, and we're ready to give up our material attachments, then something can manifest. Jiva kaba jadunai, hari kabunai, hari sakar jiva chintya beta beta mai. The jiva is not a product of dull matter, nor is he keval advaita. That means he's not one with the Lord. Absolutely one in all ways with Sri Hari. The jiva is inconceivably different and non-different from Hari. So we've discussed this in great length, how those 9 aspects are the same in me, the jiva, and in Krishna. That Gyan Sarup, Nata Sarup, Bhaktri Sarup, Mantri Sarup, Ketra Gyan, Swaprakash, Paraprakash,
Swaprakash, Paraprakash, and Shuddhadeha.
Sudadeha at the end, yes. A pure spiritual body, the same as Krishna has. So we are identical to Krishna in that sense, but in a minute atomic way. Krishna is vibhuchit, Krishna is absolute, but the jiva is atomic, anuchit. Deha kapa jivanai, dara bhogyamnai, dasha bhogya jiva Krishna prabhu bhakta hai. The material body should never be considered to be the jiva, and this earth is not the jiva to exploit and enjoy. There was a video circulating previously, and it came on our Bhagavatam thread about this earth is our home. This earth is not our home. We are not from this earth. We have come from the Brahmajyoti, and we are inhabiting this birth, at least, on this particular planet. Next birth, we may take birth in the sun planet with a fiery body. We may take birth in any of the different planets. So this little temporary life, we can't say, oh, this earth is our home. We are all foreigners in a foreign land. This is what Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj quotes many times. But this quote came from Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati. This is not my home. Don't seek a homely comfort place here. Don't look for it, because you can spend your whole life trying to cultivate a homely situation. And then what will happen? Each day you'll become more attached. And then at the time of death, you'll actually become in anxiety and worried. At the time of death is something when we know that Krishna, he comes as death. So why should we be intimidated by death at all? Bhayam dvitiya biniveshitam syat, isatupatasya viparya ushmati. That fear arises only through material absorption. These are just profound philosophical realities that we need to take on board and live, Not just hear them, not just have them words in a book, but try to incorporate them into our very existence. And then some realization will come. And that will come very easily with the chanting of the holy name. Mahaprabhu has given us this name. It's so powerful in this age of Kali especially. Etavan evilokeshmin pumsam dharma paroshmita. What is the highest dharma? Is this Tannama Granadibi, this holy name, Bhakti Yogi Bhagavati Tannama Granadibi. That this chanting of the holy name is the highest welfare for all humanity. But Mahaprabhu has empowered the name in this birth, in this age. Why? So that we can actually access Rag Marg. Rag Marg was never there previously. Bhakti Ras was never there previously. So if our interest comes towards that way, comes towards Vrindavan, comes towards the teachings of Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, these are all the teachings of Mahaprabhu. Mahaprabhu has given us this, Chaito Darpanam Marjanam, Bhava Mahatavagni Rapanam. He's given us these 8 Shikshastikam verses. They contain everything within those verses. There's nothing that's missing. The Jiva's Swarup is Krishna Das, and thus he is meant for Krishna's enjoyment, whereas Sri Krishna's Swarup is Prabhu, Master, and Bhakta, enjoyer. Jaiva Dharma nahiyache deha dharma kata, nahiyache jiva gyan mayavada prata. This book, entitled Jaiva Dharma, neither discusses matters related to the dead material body, nor does it propound the Mayavad doctrine of the jiva's oneness with Brahma. So how wonderful is this particular book? This is the only book we should have. There shouldn't be any other book. As I said before, this is the embodiment of Chaitanya Charitamrita. It's the embodiment of the Srimad Bhagavatam. It contains all truths that are in the Bhagavatam. It contains all the truths that are in Chaitanya Charitamrita. We don't really need anything other than this. But we should know the Srimad Bhagavatam, otherwise we won't appreciate that. If you haven't read the Bhagavatam, you won't appreciate that everything is within here. And if you haven't read the Chaitanya Charitamrita, you also won't appreciate it. But once you absorb both of those books, that means you've read them more than once, and you've absorbed them. You've absorbed the content deeply. Then this book is the most precious book that we can have. Jiva nitya dharma bhakti tahe jada nahi, shura jiva prema seva phala paya tahi. The jiva's nitya dharma is bhakti, devoid of material motivation. The jiva purified by seva attains the fruit of that seva in the form of prem. This form of prem, Krishna prem, Radha prem. This is, we want to follow the Manjaris, the gopis of Vrindavan, and their prem for Krishna. We are in their anugatya. We are wanting to hear about their pastimes and to follow in their exemplary footsteps. Okay, so now we'll come to our 14th chapter, and we're into this Rasabdim. So Amnaya Praha, we've discussed the Praman. And what is it? Tattvam iha haram harim. Yes, this Krishna Tattva. We've discussed that in the 13th chapter, particularly in reference to the qualities of Krishna. And now, yesterday or the day before, we discussed Shakti Tattva. These 3 principal Shaktis, Chit Shakti, Jiva Shakti, and Maya Shakti. These are all energies of the Lord that are relative to our existence. So when we appreciate this, we take it more seriously to try to understand these Shaktis. And then the 3 functions are Sandini, Samvit, and Hladini. And that's the same as Sat, Chit, Ananda. So they run through everything. So that Shakti Tattva we discussed. And now we've come to Rasa Tattva. And the last point we were discussing is that that the jiva is an atomic potency of Swarup Shakti. And what else? Sandhini Shakti. Oh, the inconceivability of Krishna. This actually constitutes Rasa Tattva. It has to be inconceivable. It has to be astonishing. There's that description that I've said a few times already, that which is beyond imagination, heavy with wonder, and shining in the heart with pure goodness. Such is the state of rasa. It's beyond imagination. We can't imagine it. It's because it's inconceivable. So this makes it astonishing, chamatkar. So Krishna's pastimes are astonishing. Yesterday I told that pastime about Punamasi and the flutes raining. It's astonishing. And every step that Krishna takes in Braj is astonishing. There's a great personality, Narayan Bhatta Goswami, and he wrote one parikrama book with 60,000 different pastimes of Krishna in Vrindavan. And my Gurudev said, that's nothing. Every single footstep that Krishna goes is a pastime. Every step he takes, there's a pastime connected with it. The particular trees that are there, the foliage that's there, the Jamuna, the environment, every single, that's why the Goswamis would sleep under a different tree every night, so they could hear a different pastime described by the tree. These trees in Vrindavan are Kalpavriksha trees. They're not ordinary trees, so they retain the memory of the eternal Lord. So now we come to the last thing we were discussing was how this inconceivable aspect of Krishna, that he can move and not move at the same time. This is what we discussed. This was the last thing, that he's born and he's not born. And he's fear personified, yet he runs and takes shelter of a fort in the ocean. So all of these, and he works and he doesn't work, etc. All of these inconceivable aspects. So that's what we just discussed. Now, Rajanath is asking a question. Do the Vedas accept this? So he wants to know if the Vedas are revealing this achintya conception clearly or not. So Babaji, it has been accepted everywhere. It has been said in the Shvetashvara Upanishad.
3.19 Apani pado javano grahita pashyati achakshu sashnoti akarnaha saveti vedyam na cha tasyasti vetta tam ahur agrayam purusham mahantam.
That Paramatma has no hands. Again, we're going to look at the inconceivability. He has no hands or legs, but he accepts everything with his transcendental hands and goes everywhere with his transcendental legs. You see, when it says he has no hands, the Mayavads interpret that as he has no form. He has no active form. But the point is he has no material hands. He has no material legs. It's very easy to realize this in Jagannath Dev. Because when you see Jagannath Dev, the physical form, he doesn't really have material hands. He doesn't really have material legs. So it's very easy, but he's all pervasive. He's everywhere. He has no material eyes or ears, yet he sees and hears everything with his transcendental eyes and ears. This is about Krishna. So this is what Babaji wants to substantiate in the heart of Brajanath. It's not about Brahm. It's not about the impersonal Brahman. It's about Krishna and Krishna's nature, Krishna's form. That's why in the last chapter we talked all about his qualities, putting his qualities together. We've had, first of all, those 6 qualities recognizing Bhagavan, beauty, and then strength, fame, and opulence, and then vairagya and gyan. These are all qualities of Krishna. And then we had that 64 qualities of Krishna. This is to give us the reinforcement of the personality. Why did Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada make such a big deal in calling Krishna the personality? All the time he called him the personality of Godhead, personality of Godhead. Because otherwise, if you say the word God, it's like saying the word tree. What does tree indicate? Any tree. But if you say like a banana tree or a fig tree or a mango tree, it has character, it has a particular identity. So just to say God is like the Brahman. It doesn't really demonstrate variety. It doesn't really give you the impression of a personality. So because there is so much Mayavad in the world today, that this wonderful expression of the supreme personality of Godhead is such a beautiful expression. To try to drill it into our consciousnesses that God has a form and he's a personality. Before we heard of Krishna, especially in the Western world, I hadn't heard of Krishna before I was 19 or 20, something like that, 18, 19. I'd never heard of Krishna. So when I heard that before I would worship God, and of course in a complete abstract way, not knowing, or an imaginary way, but hearing the name Krishna and a description of Krishna, then all of a sudden my understanding of the personality started to manifest in my consciousness. So this is why it's so important to have his name. He has no material eyes or ears, yet he sees and hears everything with his transcendental eyes and ears. He knows all that is to be known and the activities of everything, but no one can know him unless he reveals himself. Even he sometimes acts like he doesn't know anything. Like in Vrindavan, he's described as Mugdata, not knowing anything. At the same time, simultaneously, he's Sarvagyan, he's all-knowing. At the same time, he's all-knowing and not knowing anything. This is inconceivable. So we have to accept two things here. We have to accept the inconceivable nature of Krishna, and we have to accept his qualities, his form, his personality. So there's two things to appreciate. But no one can know him unless he reveals himself. This is the point. Our path is avaroha panta, this descending path. We're not trying to climb by our own empiric or clever, logical, rational knowledge, intelligence. That won't help you at all because it's beyond. The truth is beyond that. And we have to become humble and accept there is a truth beyond my great intelligence. So humility is absolutely essential. This is why Mahaprabhu, he spoke, Trinadapi Sunichena. Only through this, Kiratanya Sadahari, only with understanding this quality will the holy name actually act on the soul, on the consciousness. But no one can know him unless he reveals himself. The transcendentalists who know Brahm call him the original personality, the great Purush, who is the cause of all causes. He's so great, they call him Brahm. That means he's beyond comprehension. This is like the Devas call him Brahm also. The Devas want that Brahmajyoti realization because their spiritual master has that Brahmajyoti. That Brahmajyoti realization saves you the trouble of developing your relationship with Krishna. Just like when we go to visit Thakurji, Gopinath, in the temple here. When we see him, what do we think? He's there with Lalita and Vishaka. He's there like in a cave practically. But he's just so beautiful. He's so attractive because beauty is the principal quality. And then if we understand something about the Supreme Lord, our hearts will become attracted with understanding, with knowledge, to develop our relationship with him. If we ask him something, please help me, I'm so stupid, I don't know anything. Please, Gopinath, show me your beauty, your speciality, demonstrate it in my heart. Call to him, ask him. We can only do that when we're in a completely submissive place of consciousness. If we're at all proud of our various acquisitions, we can't. You can't call him. There's too much pride there. And being in a material conditioned state, that's the quality of a material conditioned mind, is that he's proud. He can't help it. He's so proud because he has to actually hide his real form behind the false ego. what's that? Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharshi coined that beautiful expression. Why do we have a false ego? To hide, to shield us from the horror of our absolute insignificance. That's why we have a false ego, because it shields us from the horror of our absolute atomic nature. We need to think about this. It's not something to be disturbed about or depressed about. It's just the absolute reality. And if I try and live in another sort of reality, I'm going to be fooling myself. In the Isha Upanishad, we find the following statements.
Tad ejati tannaijati tad dure tadvantike tad antar asya sarvasya tad usarvasyasya bhayatah. Isha Upanishad 5.
That Parameshwara walks, and yet he does not walk. He is further than the furthest. We've already discussed this 2 pages ago, but it's the same point because Brajanath is asking for praman. He's a very good devotee, so he asks for the praman of this. That Parameshwara walks and yet does not walk. He is further than the furthest and yet also nearer than the nearest. He is within everything and at the same time outside of everything. This is how the qualities of the spiritual world are perfectly resolved, although they appear to contradict each other. So it seems difficult to understand Krishna. It's not difficult if one becomes submissive. Tesham satatam yuktanam bhajatam pratipurvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayadite. To those who constantly worship me with love and devotion, I give them the understanding which they can come to me. So this love and devotion is the ingredient, how to develop our bhakti. But we are looking to develop even higher than that. We're looking to develop bhakti ras. So first of all, we have to develop bhakti and then bhakti ras.
Saparyagach chukram akayam avranam asnaviram shuddham apapavidham kavir manishi paribhu swayambhur yathatayauto rathan vyadadhacha chashvati bhaya samabhyah. Ish Upanishad 8.
That Paramatma is omniscient and pure. He has no material form, but he has an eternal transcendental form full of knowledge and bliss. This body has no veins or holes and is beyond all designations. He is the primeval sage and poet. He is omniscient and he appears by his own desire. That means he's independent. He's not subjected to our orders. It's like many times in many religions, they think that if I pray hard enough, Krishna must do this. He must fix this. I'm always asking, what is that even the Christian prayer? Hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come. Give us this day our daily bread. Like ordering God, as if God doesn't know what we need. This order supplier. Many go to church because they want something. They want peace. They want to pray for humanity. They have a motive, a business deal they want with Krishna. Even the yogis sometimes, they're performing different austerities. And because they want something, they want some mystic cities. Even the bhaktas, they want beyond mukti, but they're not sure what it is. So this material desires are there. That Paramatma is omniscient and pure. He has no material form, but he has an eternal, transcendental form full of knowledge and bliss. This body has no veins or holes and is beyond all designations. He is the primeval sage and poet. He is omniscient and he appears by his own desire. He is situated on the highest platform and he controls everything. By his inconceivable potency, he maintains everything throughout eternity and engages all others in work according to their qualities. So this is how brilliant is the Supreme Lord. And he's working through his Shaktis, through his agencies. He doesn't do this himself. The Devas are masters of this world, and they are the controllers. Rajanath, is there any description in the Vedas of Bhagavan who is completely independent, appearing in this material world of his own volition? Does Krishna just come by his own desire? Babaji, yes, the Vedas mention it in several places. The Talavakara and Kena Upanishad relates a dialogue between Uma and Mahendra, Sri Shivji, which describes how once a fierce battle took place between the Devatas and the Asuras. On this occasion, the Asuras were heavily defeated and fled from the battlefield. The Devatas were victorious, although the victory was actually Bhagavan's alone, and the Devas were only his instruments. However, out of pride and arrogance, the Devas forgot this and began to boast of their strength and valor. This is the nature of materially conditioned souls. We want to be proud of anything because we feel that we can find love in the world by showing our greatness. How great am I? Then people will love me. But actually, to serve Krishna and acknowledge his greatness, that means I'm giving up or I'm purifying that sinful desire for my own center stage, that I want to be in the center all the time. Because this is the perverted reflection in this world. This is how we live in this world, always looking for me to be the center, grossly or subtly. However, out of pride and arrogance, the Devatas forgot this and began to boast of their strength and valor. At this point, Parabrahm Bhagavan, who is the reservoir of mercy, appeared there in a wonderful form and inquired as to the cause of their pride. He then produced a straw and asked them to destroy it. The Devatas were amazed, for the Deva of fire could not burn it, nor could the Deva of wind lift it, despite exerting all their potency and prowess. The Devas were astounded to see Bhagavan's extraordinary beautiful form and wonderful power. See, Bhagavan has to show this type of Aishwarya to the Devas. That's the only way he can instill faith in himself. But even that faith is not strong enough to turn them away from trying to find Brahman realization. The Devas still want mukti. They don't want bhakti. Okay.
Tasmai tranam nidadhavadeti taduprayaya sarvajavena tanashashak dagdhum satat eva nivavrate naitadashakam vigyatum yadetat yakshamiti. Kena Upanishad 3.6.
That yaksha, who was actually Bhagavan, put a straw in front of Agni Dev and said, "Let us see your strength. Can you burn this dry straw?" Agni Dev went close to that straw and directed his power on it, all his power on it, but he could not burn it. Ashamed, he returned and said to the Devas, "I cannot understand who this yaksha is." So Krishna is demonstrating his own supremacy to curb the pride of the Devas. He curbed the pride of Indra. When Indra in the heavenly worlds was thinking he was greater than Krishna, and Krishna lifted Govardhan Hill, Giriraj Govardhan, and Indra threw all his strength, the Shambhataka clouds and his thunderbolts, everything at Giriraj Govardhan. Nothing could touch, not even an ant was disturbed. Not even a blade of grass ultimately suffered from Indra's attack on Krishna. The same with Lord Brahma. Lord Brahma stole the cows or the calves and the cowherd boys, tried to demonstrate his mystical potency. Krishna again had to purify that. So Krishna, he's always purifying this pride. So we should look within ourselves, and if we pray for something at the lotus feet of Gopinath, for example, we can say, "Please purify me of my pride." so that I can see you. I can't see you through my false pride. We can say like this, we can ask him to help us, but that means we have to really genuinely want to be humble. The confidential purport of the Vedas is that Bhagavan is an inconceivable, beautiful person. He appears by his own sweet desire and performs various pastimes with the jivas. Rajana, Bhagavan has been called an ocean of rasa. Is this described anywhere in the Vedas? Babaji, it is clearly stated in the Taittiriya Upanishad 2.7.
Yadvai tat sukritam raso vai saha rasam hi evayam labdhuvanandi bhavati ko hi evanyat kah pranyat yad esh akash anando na syat esh hi evanandayati.
Remember, this is tattva that we're discussing. We're talking about rasa a little bit here now, but basically our discussion, this dasmula tattva, it's discussing the tattva. And then later on, we can place the lila on top of the rasa with confidence. But unless we actually have digested and appreciated the tattva, we can't really properly appreciate the lila. It becomes somewhat imaginary. You know, we resort to our imagination. So this is why we're going through these quite dense topics to establish the tattva, so that we can enter in the last 14 chapters into the rasa. Parabrahm, Paramatma, is the Sukrit Brahm, the very handsome Supreme Spirit. His Swarup is unalloyed rasa. And when the jiva realizes this rasa Swarup, Parabrahm, he becomes full of anand. Who would endeavor to live if that undivided reality were not the embodiment of Anand in the form of rasa? Paramatma alone gives bliss to all. This is the ultimate appreciation from our study of tattva, is we come to this place of rasa, inquiry into rasa, and then we can have proper full respect for it. But the gravity must be there. The intoxicating influence of this material world has to come down. It has to become grave. This is why the chanting of the holy name is so powerful. It brings the intoxication down like a drunk man. A drunk man in the illusion, thinking everything, he's the controller of everything. This is our state. We think we are the controllers of our lives, and we're walking around in a drunken condition. But by the gravity of hearing tattva, the gravity of chanting Hare Krishna, the gravity of performing sadhana will bring the temperature down to a place where we can actually access these truths in our hearts, not just through our imagination. Rajanath, if he is Rasa Swarup, why can't the materialists see him or comprehend him? Nice question. Babaji, there are two types of conditioned jivas, those who have turned away from Krishna, parak, and those who are facing Krishna, pratyak. Jivas in the parak state cannot see Krishna's beauty because they are opposed to him. They're opposed to him in the sense that they're not looking at him, they're looking at themselves. This is where the pride comes from. We're always looking at ourselves. We're not looking at Krishna. We're not appreciating the Shaktis of Krishna everywhere. We're more focusing on my own exploitation of the Shaktis. That's why we're in the bewildered condition. But when we focus on Krishna, when we see Krishna, then everything transforms. Jivas in the parak state cannot see Krishna's beauty because they are opposed to him. They only see and think about material things. That means they only think about material objects related to them, their material selves. Jivas in the pratyak state are opposed to Maya and favorable to Krishna, so they can see Krishna's rasa swarup. It is said in Katha Upanishad,
Paranchi khani vyatranat swayambhus tasmat paran pashyati nantaratman kaschid dhirah pratyag atmanam aikshat avrat chakshur amrit tattvam icchan.
The self-born Parameshwara has made all the senses so that they tend towards external objects. That is why the jivas normally perceive only external objects through his senses and is unable to see Bhagavan situated within his heart. Only a grave and resolute person, this is what I was just saying, grave and resolute person who desires liberation in the form of love of Krishna can disengage his ears and other senses from external objects and see the Pratyak Atma, Sri Bhagavan. This is just what I was saying, same thing. And now it's being repeated. Brajanath. Who is the one who has been called the embodiment of rasa in the sloka Raso Vaisaha? It is said in the Gopal Tapani Upanishad, Purvakand 12:13.
Gopavesham abrabham tarunam kalpadrumashritam satpundarik nayanam megabham vaidittambaram dvibhujam maunamudradhyam malinam ishwaram.
His desire is like that of a cowherd boy. His eyes are like a fully bloomed white lotus. The hue of his body is blackish blue, like monsoon clouds. And he wears an effulgent yellow cloth that is as brilliant as lightning. His form is two-handed, and he is situated in Gyan Mudra, the pose indicating divine knowledge. His neck is beautified with a garland of forest flowers that reaches to his feet. He is standing beneath a divine kalpavriksha. That Sri Krishna is the Lord of all. It's a very beautiful description of his form. There are so many descriptions in so many of the chapters of Srimad Bhagavatam when Krishna regularly appears in front of his devotees, in front of Dhruva, in front of Prithu Maharaj, in front of the Vishnu Dutas, in front of Ajamil. So many times Krishna appears to his devotees, and all of these descriptions, like Kapila Dev, so beautifully described his form, etc., to again give us a deeper appreciation for the personality, to make him alive as a personality, as a form. Brajanath, now I understand that Sri Krishna, in his Nitya Siddha Swarup, within the spiritual world, is all-powerful. Now, Brajanath is going to give a summary of what Babaji Maharaj has explained. This is how Bhaktivinoda Thakur works very often. Brajanath will present a summary just to show that he's understood or not understood. Now I understand that Sri Krishna, in his Nitya Siddha Swarup, within the spiritual world, is all-powerful, the embodiment, Swarup of Rasa, and the abode, Ashraya Swarup of all Rasa. He cannot be attained by Brahmagyan. No, he can't be attained. Brahmagyan is limited. It's his effulgence. If you just look to the effulgence, how can you even know the Shakti beyond that? Certainly you won't know Bhagavan. If one practices the eightfold system of yoga, one can only realize his partial manifestation as Paramatma. So yes, beyond Brahm, then the realization is Paramatma. And even that is not complete, because there's no variety in Paramatma. Paramatma is the same in everyone's heart. He's there with four arms. He's acting as Antaryami within the heart of all jivas. There's no variety there. There's no variegatedness. Paramatma is the same. He's not doing different activities. So he's not like Bhagavan. Nirvishesh Brahm is but the bodily luster of Sri Krishna,
who is full of eternal spiritual qualities and is the worshipable Lord of all worlds. However, we can find no means to attain him because he is beyond the jurisdiction of our thinking power. So this is like a conclusion of what we've been discussing. Moreover, what means do human beings have apart from their faculty of contemplation? Whether one is a Brahmana or an untouchable, he does not have any means other than his mind. Therefore, it is very difficult to attain Krishna's mercy. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says in many places that the mind is the only instrument we have to attain transcendence. First of all, we have to know what is transcendence. Transcendence is being in Vrindavan Dham. Transcendence is rendering service to Srimati Radhika. Transcendence is understanding who is Srimati Radhika. She has the most affection and love for Krishna. There is nothing beyond her love for Krishna. That love for Krishna is even higher than Krishna's love for her. This is why he manifests as Mahaprabhu, to taste her love. He wants to fulfill those three desires, Sri Radhaya Pranayama Hima Kidrisha, the greatness of Radha's love, that those qualities that she alone sees in him, that Adbhuta Madhurima, and the happiness that Radhika feels. So Krishna can't understand this. So Radhika is that place of the highest devotion in existence. That's why Krishna reciprocates with Radhika, because she has the most devotion out of everybody. Even if one gopi, her anurag increases and wants to attract Krishna, and Krishna momentarily becomes attracted to her, but if that gopi isn't inclined to go to Krishna, Radhika will go and beg at the lotus feet of that gopi. Oh, I will do your housework so you can go to Krishna. So her love, this aslisya varatam patam nashtomam, in that last verse of Shikshastakam, if Krishna is enjoying with other women and that makes him happy, Radhika is happy. Radhika only wants Krishna's happiness. And if Krishna wants Radhika to be unhappy, then Radhika is happy because that's making Krishna happy. Whatever Krishna wants, Radhika is going to try to fulfill his desire. She performs man because Krishna is happy to do the work to break that man, to serve Radhika, to break that man. Without that man, the relationship won't have such towering waves. And without separation, there can't be the complete union. There must be separation to make the height of union. So all of these variegated activities abound in Vrindavan Dham. So for that person who wants Krishna eagerly, he will always have his mind in Vrindavan. Always in Vrindavan, that means always in the pastimes. Tannama rupa charitadi sukirtana, smitya kramana rasana masidyoja, tishtem brajay tanuragi janugami, kalam nayam ikilam iti upadesharam. This is the essence of all advice, all instruction that Rupa Goswami is giving, to dwell in Vrindavan. However, we find no means to attain him because he is beyond the jurisdiction of our thinking power. So all this tattva has to be there just to make a solid case to come towards Krishna. This is why all the tattvas being here. These are the ontological truths, specifically in the Dasmula. And if we are very familiar with these, it's not that we have to think about this all the time, but we should appreciate this and then springboard from there into the Leela. Understand? Moreover, what means do human beings have apart from the faculty of contemplation? Whether one is a Brahmana or an untouchable, he does not have any means other than his mind. We only have our mind. So if our mind is becoming purified by the process of sadhana, by chanting the holy names, etc., if our mind is becoming purified by this process, by the mercy of Guru, by the mercy of in sadhu sangha, if the mind is becoming purified through hearing these truths, purification will come, because these truths aren't just like armchair philosophies. They're profound spiritual realities that we're hearing. It sobers us up. It brings us to a point of what is the distinction between matter and spirit, again and again and again and again. This appreciation. Therefore, it is very difficult to attain Krishna's mercy. Babaji, it is said in Katha Upanishad 2:13.
Tam atma stamye anupashyanti dhiras tesham shanti shashwati netarashe netaresham.
Only the wise man who sees Paramatma within himself can achieve eternal peace. No one else can. So Paramatma, in this case, means the Supreme Lord is dwelling within the heart of every jiva. Krishna is there as Paramatma, but that Paramatma feature is not the feature that we want to have realization of. We want to go beyond that feature and recognize Bhagavan, the full feature. Vedanti tat tattva vedas tattvam yajnanam advayam brahmati paramatmati Bhagavan iti shabdyate. We want to come to this place of Bhagavan. This is the goal, not Paramatma. Nevertheless, Paramatma is within the heart of every jiva. Rajanath, one may be able to attain eternal peace by constantly seeing him within oneself. But what is the process by which one can see him? It is difficult to understand this. Rajanath is asking good questions. It's hard to see Paramatma. We can realize, we can think of it sometime, but how can we see? How can we really realize that? Babaji, it is said in Katha Upanishad 1:23.
Nayam atma pravachanena labhyo na medhaya na bahuna shrutena yam evaish vrunute tena labhyas tasyaish atma vivrunite tanum swam.
One cannot attain Parabrahm, Paramatma, by lecturing, by intellect, or by the study of various shastras. He only reveals his transcendental form by his own mercy to one who he himself adopts. In other words, we have to develop our relationship with Krishna outside of everything else, outside of all of our various material assets, etc. We individually have to develop our relationship with Krishna individually. It's not a group thing, ever. It's an individual appreciation. Individually, we have to talk to Krishna, ask him, pray. It is said in Srimad Bhagavatam 10:14-29.
Atapi te dev padambuj dvaya prasad leshangruhit evahi janati tattvam bhagwan mahimno na chanya eko pichiram vichinvan.
This is spoken by Lord Brahma when he returns Krishna's calves and the cowherd boys, or when he sees Krishna's potency that he didn't even steal them, in fact, because there's 3 sets of calves and boys. There's the one set that Lord Brahma put in a cave, then there's the other set that Krishna himself put into Yog Nidra, so not to disturb any of his eternal associates. And there's another set that was manifest by Krishna directly, those Vishnu Murti sets. So there was 3 sets. So, and then he comes afterwards and he offers these prayers for forgiveness. So this is one of those prayers that he's offering. O Lord, one who attains even a little of your mercy by your 2 lotus feet can comprehend the essence of your transcendental glories. Others cannot realize the essential truth of yourself, even though they may keep searching for you for many years through Gyan and Vairagya, like yogis. If it's just through Gyan and Vairagya and you're practicing, yes, you will get some mystic opulence, you will get some types of incentive to keep going, but it's not going to give you the heart of satisfaction, which only comes from our relationship, that love. Love is the pivotal place. Love is the principal place, love. Where does love reside? Transcendental love. That's what the heart is craving, crying for. Where is that loving relationship? We have many types of relationships in this world, but they're all dry in comparison to the relationships with the spiritual personalities. If we can develop our relationship with Bhaktivinoda Thakur by reading and giving proper respect to this book. Bhaktivinoda Thakur himself, he can give us mercy, direct mercy. He's Kamala Manjari. He's in the camp of Sri Radhika. He's in the camp of Lalita Saki, Ananga Manjari. This is who he is. We can pray to him. We can pray to Srila Gopkishore Das Babaji. We can pray to Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati. We can pray to Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Maharaj. We can pray to my Gurudev, Raman Manjari. We can pray to all of these personalities to please intercede for me with Krishna. Please give me, but there's a requirement. There has to be real greed. Guru has to see real intensity of purpose and greed. That means he has to see that the sadhana has become very intense and one-focused, ekantika, only wanting Krishna, not wanting so many of the peripherals. There are so many peripherals to get distracted by, but only wanting Krishna in the heart. And that will manifest by your embracing of Nam in particular, taking this Nam very, very seriously with your whole life, knowing that nothing really exists significant outside of Nam. Nam is Krishna directly. If we want Krishna, then take Nam, take the holy name. Always be chanting. When we're sleeping, chanting. When we're eating, chanting. Always have that current, that sound vibration flowing through our whole body. Then that is indicative or indicating that I'm seriously wanting Krishna. And then Krishna can manifest some mercy to us. My son, my Prabhu is very munificent. My Prabhu, that means Krishna. That Sri Krishna, who is the soul of all souls, cannot be attained by reading or hearing various shastras or by arguments and discussions, nor can he be attained through sharp intelligence. Actually, if you have sharp intelligence, sometimes harder. It's more difficult, because if you have sharp intelligence, you're used to getting things by your intelligence. You're used to manipulating the material energy to your own advantage. You're used to that. So it's more difficult, actually, if you have sharp intelligence. We have to use our sharp intelligence to become submissive to Krishna, just like Lord Brahma. Lord Brahma has so much sharp intelligence, so much mystic potency, and he tried to even trick Krishna, to illusion Krishna. And this was actually amounted to aparad. Actually, Madhvacharya, who is a great proponent in this Brahma Madhva line, he doesn't even write about this chapter in his commentary on the 10th canto. He leaves out this Brahma Vimohan Lila. He can't even accept that Lord Brahma would get bewildered. He doesn't acknowledge that. Nor can he be attained through sharp intelligence or by accepting several gurus. Only one who accepts him as my Krishna can attain him. He will only manifest his transcendental Satchidananda form to such bhaktas when we analyze the Abhideya Tattva. You will be able to understand these truths easily. When we analyze the Abhideya Tattva, you will be able to understand these truths easily. So I think I'm going to stop here. goes on to the beautiful names. But understand the qualities that we're substantiating here. We're substantiating Rasa Tattva. We're creating a platform, a very, very strong platform. Even if you don't understand it, if you understand 1/10 of what we've spoken about, then you're lucky. But the mood of submissive admiration for Krishna is what is going to surpass everything. When that genuine mood of appreciation for Krishna rises in the heart, then anything can manifest for the jiva. Then distinct humility has arisen when we're able to invoke that astonishing appreciation for Krishna. You have to be like a child by nature is humble because they're small, they're not so smart. Materially, they're developing. They're like little animals when they're young, actually. They're not really trained. So they know their limitations. So that creates a humility for them. And in that humility, they can appreciate astonishing things. Almost at every moment, it can be astonishing because they're not thinking they're such a smart person. They're not thinking they're so clever. It's only when we become more educated and people pat us on the backs, give us degrees and papers and stuff like that to try and say, yes, you're so clever, you're so smart, that we start, oh, yes, I am very smart. But then we start drifting away from the real essence of bowing the head. So, Jaiva Dharma ki jai. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki jai. Ananta Kota Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Gaur Premanandi jai. Panchakalpatarubhyas cha. Kripa Sindhaveva cha. Patitanam Pavnibhyo Vaishnava.
Namo Namah.
Did you finish it?